when my father was about ready to go to college, two people from Jamestown that were friends, my father and Clarence Lake, his father was part of the New York Central Railroad business, took up the offer and went to Stanford.
No kidding.
And then he went to Harvard. So then I guess I just grew up in a legal atmosphere, as did my brother, and there was no great pressure about it. We just sort of fell into it.
Now, did your dad, when he started the practice, was he on his own?
He went in with a fellow by the name of Frank Stevens. And Stevens had a practice, and so my father was, the two of them were partners, and then Stevens passed on, and Dad took on Walter Miller, and then it grew from there.
How did he get involved with?
Mike Lombardo was with my father. Willard Cass Sr. was with my father for quite a while.
Sure.
They, sort of did internships with him and then went on their own.
Was that a standard practice?
Apparently, that happened a lot. There are two things that I recall that friends would say about him: that he was intelligent, he was an able practitioner, and he was ambitious.
1954, he dies. The Supreme Court comes back to Jamestown for the memorial. This Jamestown picture shows from left to right Sherman Minton, Stanley Reed, Thomas Clark, Hugo Black. In the center of the Erie and Pennsylvania Railroad car, Chief Judge Earl Warren, Harold Burton, Felix Frankfurter, and William O. Douglas. Were you part of that process?
I was president of the bar at that time. So theoretically, I was in charge of a lot of the stuff that went on in connection with that funeral and about greeting the Supreme Court justices and organizing a lunch arrangement following the funeral, which I did, and it was held at Moonbrook. And the one thing that I'd forgotten to tell the manager up there was to fly the flag at half-mast, and he preempted my fault by not thinking about it. He took care of it. He had it at half-mast when we drove up to the club to have our lunch. And there was a guest book there which we insisted on all of the judges signing, just as a record for Moonbrook.
Yeah.
And somehow or another, that just got stolen. I think it was stored someplace on the premises, and somebody just went off and took it. But that was helping me was Ernie Leet, who was the chief usher at the Episcopal Church, the St. Luke's Church, and Marion Fisher, who said to me, "You're too young to know what this is all about." And I know all about protocol and what to do and so forth, and so I will be your co-chairman. The self-appointed situation, which was fine with me because he did know more about some of that than I'll ever know.
Sure.
But he was helpful, and when we had pretty much everybody seated, there was a big to-do outside on the street. Sirens and like a parade of limousines and so forth. And coming down Main Street, Tom Dewey, governor of New York. Big noise. Everybody were ready for the service. And this arrival. And he comes in escorted by a couple of state cops and into the church, at which point Ernie Leet took over, and Dewey starts right down to sit in the aisle in front of the Supreme Court. And Ernie Lee stopped him and said, "No, sir, your seat is back here," and insisted on it in spite of the little struggle at the point right there. I watched it. So Ernie got Dewey back where he should have been, and as far as that part of the protocol was concerned. But that created a disturbance, and some of the Supreme Court guys looked around behind him, you know, gave him the big frown. That didn't sit too well with them.
Yeah.
And it was obvious what was going on. But the funeral went off without a hitch, and he was buried, as you know, in that where the family came from, down beyond Shrewsbury. The problem that I had was that all these guys who were justices of the peace or VIPs in the townships in Chautauqua County and around got a hold of me and wanted to sit at one of the tables at Moonbrook with one of the judges. Well, I had set up tables so that everybody knew where they were going, and somebody at the club to tell them where they were going to sit and so forth, so we didn't have a battle over it and people grabbing the same chair and so on. We got that taken care of. But the court wanted to take a look around Chautauqua County, so we got a bunch of guys to volunteer that they would drive their car and take along one of the judges, and we'd drive them around the lake with a police escort and stop at Chautauqua and drive through Chautauqua. Yeah, and I remember I rode in a car with Judge Warren. He said, "I would so much like to come up here during the summertime and spend at least 2 weeks just, you know, enjoying myself and fishing and seeing all this lovely countryside and so forth." And I said, "That can be arranged." Their train was pulled up at the station, their private cars, and we finished
in Jamestown.
Yeah, we finished the trip around the lake and got them back on the train, and off they went. That train arrived, of course, and we had the several of the members of the local bar association and out there on the platform to greet them as they came off, and one of their own protocol guys from Washington that came up with them said, "Bring your committee into the train. They want to meet you face to face." Marvelous.
Yeah.
What an opportunity. So we went, and each one of them was sitting in a little compartment, and we met with them and talked with them, and then they proceeded with the rest of the program.
So from there, they arrive in the Jamestown station, and from there you greet them, and then did you take them separately up to the church service?
Mm-hmm. We had a little fleet of cars of guys that were willing to do that job.
I suppose you didn't
They were eager.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
not a problem then.
Yeah.
Bill Wright and Park Catchbull as one of the drivers. Reverend George O'Prey leading the pallbearers out of the church. A remarkable shot showing the 8 justices as they're leaving. If you look closely, you'll see John Goodell and Bob Booty on the left and Charlie Price on the right. Justices on either side as honorary pallbearers. An indication of the crowd as they're departing St. Luke's Church towards Shrewsbury. The remaining 8 justices as they depart for the cemetery.